Welcome back to the Halifax Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Jason Paul, licensed realtor, team lead at the Infinity Real Estate Group at eXp Realty in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I'm here to help you gain a better understanding of real estate in Halifax. Hit that subscribe button, and the Halifax Real Estate Podcast is now on Discord, where I break down our upcoming guests, topics, and hopefully create a little more engagement with you guys so you can have your questions answered as well. Now back to the show. In the fall of 2023, the Canadian government announced that they will be waiving GST and HST taxes on any and all new developments in Canada, in a hope to bring more supply to the market to help solve Canada's housing crisis. Travis Mills is a small developer in Kings County, Nova Scotia, and has over a decade of experience flipping homes, converting single-family homes into multi-units, and has built several apartment buildings with several more on the way. Travis is here today to break down what it's like to build an apartment building in today's market and the impact of waiving GST, HST will have on developments in Canada. Enjoy. Hey Travis, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
So today we're talking about development, all things housing, because you're in that business. So I guess for people at home, what do you do for a living right now?
Well, currently I buy pieces of land, punch roads into them, and build multifamily buildings.
You're building multifamily buildings.
Trying.
Define multifamily, because that can be anywhere between 4 to 5, 6 units, all the way up to 40. How many units have you been built so far?
Well, I've never been asked that question. I think anything more than one would be multifamily.
Okay.
If you can make the numbers work on a duplex, go for it.
Yeah.
But I typically build 6 plexes, 8 plexes. I built a 24 unit a couple years back.
Okay.
So the valley here, like 6 plexes and 8 plexes. So there's a lot of medium density zoning, and that's what they want to see.
Okay, so where you are, and all your development has been in Kings County, the Wolfville, Kentville, New Mias area.
Correct.
Okay, so how did you get into it? How did you get into multifamily development?
Yes, it was a long road. It started back in 2008 in Toronto. That's probably where I learned that there's actually a business behind real estate, because I didn't know. I didn't grow up in an environment where I had learned anything about real estate at all.
Okay.
Everybody just owned their little house, and that was that.
Yeah.
But living in Toronto at the time, and I was there for other reasons, but I couldn't help notice what was going on. It's a business there. People were cash flowing negative, but still holding these properties and buying these properties, and I wanted in. So I think it was 2008, I bought a small bungalow with some friends, flipped it, learned a ton about what I couldn't do, got the ego in check, failed at a lot of things, created a product that I thought people wanted. I did sell it, but I made exactly $0.
Yeah. Exactly zero after everything?
I think I made $2,000 on like a tax back thing. And I remember the numbers because I wrote them down every day when I went to work on my bicycle. I didn't have a car. I worked at a hospital, and I'd get off work and I'd bike up to this bungalow and scribble down my hours, and I had 1,500 hours in the project at the end in about a year and a half. So that's like half-time work on top of I was working 50 hours a week at the hospital, and then add another 20 on top. So I was probably working 70 hours a week at the time, which I loved. I was 24, just having an absolute blast.
Yeah.
And sold that and realized, okay, I have nothing here, but looking back, I had an education.
Yeah.
And I paid for it.
Okay, so that first one was break even.
Yeah.
But you learned a lot about houses, renovations, how to get that going, and the business of real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So from there, where'd you go?
So then I wanted to move back home to Nova Scotia. Had no great plan. Real estate wasn't the plan, even when I moved back, actually. So I was working in a hospital. I thought maybe I'd transfer my skills here. I knew even then, though, that there was no great money in working in a hospital. I don't care what you do in there. You're never going to reach financial independence that way.
Funny enough,
yeah,
you don't know this. I've had 2 nurses turn real estate investors on this podcast already.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they're now full-time real estate investors, and they make a living. So it's funny bringing up. I didn't even know you did that.
Well, I don't want to turn anyone off course here, but I was, I'm educated in math and physics. I was in the tech industry in the hospitals, working in imaging, loving it. Very challenging and satisfying work, but I didn't see a great contour for my life in there.
Yeah.
And my mentor, who was an amazing person, taught me a lot about a lot of things. Probably money wasn't on her mind. She was passionate about science, and so was I. But I think somewhere deep down inside, I wanted to have financial independence since a young age. I grew up with, especially by the time I hit 9, my family had broken apart and we didn't have much money. And I remember going into school thinking, surely there's a route here I can take that's going to get me what I need, and very clumsy, very lack of mentorship. That's going to come up a lot today, is how little I had until recently. Which is okay. I don't deserve it, but I mean, I could have found it had I known how to. I just didn't know. So I was clunking along in life, meandering down the river without a paddle kind of thing. And ended up in this hospital, and then out of the corner of my eye seeing this real estate stuff. And so when we moved, had children, all that stuff, wanted to move back to Nova Scotia for family and just a different environment.
Okay.
A lot of Nova Scotians are drawn back here for whatever reason. I
Always.
actually can't pin it down why, but I did it. And when I got here, I had no house, of course. So I built a house. And
you built a house?
Yeah, that house down the road here, I built that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're down the road from me, actually, in Gasbro.
Yeah, that's right.
That's funny enough.
Yeah.
So, okay, you sold the house, broke even, decided you want to come home.
Yeah.
You came home, bought the land or the house?
Bought the land in Toronto.
You bought the land in Toronto?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
from Toronto.
And then built that house.
Came back and built that house.
How did I
afford the house?
Yeah.
So I owned a house in Toronto.
Okay.
Right. I bought a house in Toronto in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did well.
Yeah. So I bought that house for $340 in 2005, and I remember the realtor, who was a friend of mine, was like, they want $320 for it, and I know there's at least, what did he say? There's $5,000 for every offer. Add that to the asking price. It's just a weird rule of thumb at the time.
Okay.
And there were 5 or 6 offers. So he said, offer $340, and I was like, oh man. So we did, and I think I sold it for $650 7 years later.
In 2012.
2011.
2011. So 6 years later.
Yeah.
So you got your money out.
Yeah.
Use that to buy that lot or the house down there for me, and you built it.
Yeah. Keep in mind, I was working full time in a hospital. My partner was working full time as well, so we were saving huge amounts of money. I never even realized when I think back.
Yeah.
I mean, our operating costs were pretty low at the time.
Yep.
Cheaper to live there than it was when I got back here. I swear it was more expensive to live.
Actually, funny enough, I find the houses are cheaper, but I find the day-to-day prices are always a little more. Yeah. And I think it's because it costs more for them to get the produce. I always look at groceries because we were in Angus, Ontario, so we go up to Ontario every year for Christmas. And I went shopping at Christmas this year when we were up in Ontario, and like bananas were like 62 cents. When I come back home, it's like 90. And
food is definitely more here. Gas is more here.
Everything is more.
Yeah.
So I find that that's a misconception when people come out here.
Yes.
But we're getting off topic.
We are. So, how much time we have today?
As long as we need.
I can go on for hours.
So you're at the house. You built the house.
I built the house.
Okay.
And had nothing to do. I was riding out a 9-month paternity leave, as I was mentioning to you earlier.
Yeah.
And so I was still making money. And so I knew I was going to have to do something. So there was a small bungalow in town with a bunch of students living in it.
Yep.
And it was for sale for $200,000.
Town being Wolfville.
Yes.
Okay.
Small university town.
Yep.
And the numbers were decent. Way better than Toronto. This thing cash flowed well. So you could not cash flow in Toronto when I was there under any circumstance.
Okay.
You cash flowed negative. But you knew that the year-to-year appreciation was going to be 15%. Or I didn't know it, I guess, but it was happening.
You would assume.
Yeah. I mean, it was just growing and growing and growing. Everybody would say, watch out, it's going to blow. But I mean, it doesn't go 15%, 15%, 0. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you knew you were going to make something. And then here, appreciation was insignificant. You could look back and see it was 2%, 3% year after year, riding inflation. But the cash flow was good. Yeah. And the rates were low, and the banks were giving out money hand over fist. And I was too dumb at the time, and we'll talk about this a lot today, to know I was in it when it was good.
Yeah.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah. So you bought this $200,000 cash flowing student rental. 5
bedrooms. They were renting for probably $500 a room at the time. And all of a sudden I said, geez, there's something here. I remember I'd called a plumber to fix a dripping tap. That's what he came for. And $900 later, because he found a bunch of crap, said that's not happening twice. So I started doing it myself. I'd already renovated a house, and I'd renovated my own house in Toronto. So that's 2 I had under my belt. Yep. I thought, I'm going to get into this then. The hospital thing wasn't feeling good. I didn't want to drive to Halifax and stuff.
Oh, were you working in Halifax?
No, I didn't actually I just moved here with no job.
On paternity leave.
On the tail end of a paternity leave.
Yeah.
And then built my house, and then bought this little bungalow thing, and then I was like, okay, I'm in it now.
Okay,
so,
you're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. So then I bought a 4-plex in town that was underutilized. And again, I think I just got into the right time. It was advertised as a single-family dwelling.
When you say underutilized, what do you mean by
They had one
underutilized?
guy living in it, and
4 units,
yeah,
1 guy occupancy.
yeah, he had like holes cut through the walls with doors in there, so you could go from one side to the other. He had 4 bathrooms, 4 kitchens. It was like party time in this big, and it was advertised as a single family dwelling. So I looked at the cut sheet and I said, "Wow, geez, there's a lot of bathrooms going in here." So I called my broker and a realtor, I guess, and he said, "I think it might be more than that, Travis. Get down there." So we stormed down on a Sunday afternoon at 2:00.
Yeah.
I remember I walk in the front door. I was like, okay, this is good. This is good. So I'm up on the roof. I'm down looking in the sewers, everything I could get my eyes on. And I made an offer at about 2:05, right? And then we had a secured offer by that afternoon. I was the first one to see it.
No way.
Yeah, because I used to scour the
MLS for a good deal.
Yeah, and I had a good realtor, and it always kept me in the know. So that was my first multi-unit building.
Okay.
Went in one day and said, okay, how am I going to put this back to where it used to be?
Yep.
And realized I needed my help. So I called my dad, who I had not had a good relationship for many, many years. We were just starting to get to know each other. I was 30 at the time, actually.
Okay.
And, I said, come check this thing out. My dad's a great builder. He built many houses himself. I said, come check this thing out. So he does. And I'm like, want to give me a hand? He's like, sure. He thought he'd be staying a week. We worked together, 1 4-plex, 5-plex, 6-plex, whatever we were buying at the time, for 6 years.
For 6 years, you were buying
2
out
of us.
multi-units.
Yeah. No, we bought about 1 per year. And
Okay.
then did all the work ourselves. I'd say the first one was like maybe 2. I probably bought that for $250, I would guess.
Okay.
He and I worked. He never charged me. So this is a huge benefit to my career. Like huge.
Yeah.
He never charged me for any of his time. God bless him. And he's skilled labor. So we worked together. He taught me a ton, and we had a good time too, and it enriched our relationship a lot.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Yeah, and we just, some of these places needed to be gutted to the studs. Other ones just needed some makeup or whatever, and we always improved them best we could. And
I always say, after renovating a house with my wife down to the studs, you truly get to know someone when you renovate a house with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you can get through that, you can get through anything.
when you renovate a house with someone, you have to design it and put it back together. That's when you'll really learn how. You'll grow with someone.
Yes, you will. And we'll talk today about the complexity of housing and what housing is. Like housing is very complicated, and giving housing to somebody or selling them the product of housing, whether it's a home like you sell or whether I'm renting an apartment, very complicated stuff. So a lot of emotion. It's the person's closest, most important, whatever you call it.
Relationships.
It's a relationship with their,
Okay, so you're now doing these multi-units once a year. So you're purchasing a multi-unit, 4, 5, 6 unit. Once you're at your dad, you and your dad are in it, renovating it yourself.
Right, and I've now figured out the secret, of course.
What's the
on
secret?
my own, without any mentorship at all, because I haven't found that guy yet. My dad was helping me with it, but he wasn't a mentorship in the sense of financial investment, which is what this is, right?
Yeah.
So the secret was, holy crap, I can buy this thing for $250, put $50 material into it. Of course, my time and his time are free.
Yep.
And get it appraised for $6.
Yeah.
And then get an 80% mortgage at 5 something.
The
I
line-
actually was getting paid considerably with tax deferred money.
Yep.
And then just rolling into the next one, and my snowball was growing. And so for the next 5 years, I just did that one a day. I got to about 24, 26 units that way.
26 units. Wow.
Yeah, between 6 or 7 buildings.
Okay.
And even bought a little commercial building. I was starting to really, but it was plateauing a little.
Okay.
And
what year was it plateauing?
It was plateauing in around 2017, and then my dad had a stroke, and so I was starting to. He did okay. He came out of it all right, but he wasn't really able to
help.
Yeah, jackhammering and getting shocked by wires. Like, we've been through it all, right? And so he didn't want to anyway, and which is fine. So I'd already been experimenting with subs a little bit. Of course, you need to bring in your electrician, you need to bring in your plumber, but now I was exploring like real support. Right.
Yeah.
So how many guys do I need to get this big thing done quick?
Yeah.
So I'd have 1 or 2 guys working with me, and maybe 3 of us would show up and do some work. So the last project I did before I really exploded was in 2016, I think, and it was a mansion that we cut up into units and then added another secondary suite in the backyard.
Okay.
They had 1 person living in it at the time. I bought it for $300, been on the market for almost 5, and it wasn't moving, and so I came with a hard
5
cash.
months, 5 years.
$500,000.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sorry. So then I came at this guy really aggressively. By this time I had a big fat line of credit.
Yeah.
And it was all full again.
Yeah.
And here was this mansion that I just loved. I bought it, a lot of these places I bought emotionally, which you should never do, but I did. And, I really enjoyed making them nice. I would do lots of tile work and all that stuff. And, So we bought this, chopped it up into 3 apartments, built a secondary suite in the backyard. So now we have 4 units.
Yeah.
Covering almost 6,000 square feet, 13 human beings living in that building, top to bottom. And cash flow, I can't remember what it cash flowed, but I bought it for 3. I put 100 in materials in.
Yeah.
And then
What did it come out after?
I think I was in 5 by the time I was paying guys.
Yeah.
And I sold it for probably $750
Okay.
a year later or so.
You did well.
Yeah, I did all right. But
Yeah.
that's when I realized that there's the bigger you go and the more you start using other people, the faster you can move.
Yes.
A big piece of land came up, and a friend said, you should grab that and try it. And I pulled a little bit of creative stuff there. I said to the owner, there's permits required, there's zoning requirements here that are way beyond what I'm comfortable with. I had done a little bit of that, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Anything that involves the public, anything that involves town councils is really crazy.
Yeah.
Think long, boring, emotional, expensive, all those words.
Yeah.
So I did it anyway, but I said to this person, I'm not going to pay you the money you want unless I have my permits. So let's make it conditional on permits.
Okay.
And up to a year. And permits take 8 to 10 months to get. So off I went, and I sat in my little office for 6 months and just ran numbers and called people and started learning as fast as I could about all the complex processes that is development.
Yeah. So
Right.
so 2016, 2017.
So 17 is when I did that, when I chopped the mansion up.
Okay.
18 is when I bought the lot.
So 18 you bought the lot.
Yeah.
And that's when you started thinking development.
Yes.
So that was when you decided, I'm going to turn this lot into something.
Yeah, I knew I'm going to put a bunch of apartments in there.
Okay.
I built my house from scratch. I had built the secondary suite from scratch, which was actually like a 1,600 square foot house. So it was big enough.
Yeah.
And by now I knew a lot of people in the industry from all those years. It was actually from 11 to 18. So 7 years of full-time working.
Yeah.
And, I knew all the guys.
Yeah. Okay. So
And,
now you thought, I can build a multi-unit. How many units are you looking at building on this lot of land?
I mean, the conditional sale was based on maximum density, which was 48. at the
48
time.
units.
Yeah.
So you
I had no financial plan whatsoever.
so you went from buying a big mansion,
Yeah.
chopping that up into 3 units plus a backyard suite
Yeah.
to I'm going to build 48 units.
Yes, at one time. Yeah. I'm glad I did too, because as you know, it's getting harder to build. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I hit the sweet spot with that. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today, because I weathered a divorce, which was hard.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I was able to get through and continue working.
Yeah.
So I secured the permits. I had already built a relationship with CMHC through one of my 5-unit buildings.
Okay.
With the sole purpose of getting my name on the list. You can't just enter into business with CMHC. You have to start somewhere.
Okay.
It was a really expensive and drawn-out process, and it took probably a year. At least now I was in their system,
Yeah.
and I knew I was going to need them. You can't build 48 units without CMHC, so I knew I was going to need them.
Why can't you build 48 units without CMHC?
Well, I can't,
Okay.
because you need a lot of money to
You
build
need-
48 units, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got on the list, and then you were waiting on permits, and I'm assuming the permits came through.
Yes, well, permits are like any project, you push them through. So, you go to the meetings, you stand up in front of the town, in front of a mic like this, except on the other side, everybody hates you.
Okay.
Even though at the time I didn't realize that I was providing a service. I was too naive. And as I said, I had yet to find mentorship. I still didn't have mentorship in my life. I didn't know anybody really in real estate.
Yeah.
Some of the guys in town, some of the bigger players in town had chatted with me here and there, but I wasn't really seeking out advice,
Guidance and help and
guidance.
mentorship and trying to learn about how the process in the industry actually works to scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them had done 48 units, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Guys in the city.
So you go from why 48? Just trying to get maximum density.
That was maximum density, and it felt low risk because the sale was conditional on acquiring permits. So I thought, well, 8 months in, if it all goes to hell, they can keep their land.
Yeah.
But if I get the permits and I lose the ability to build them, surely I could sell the land with the permits attached and make a little bit of profit.
Yeah.
I've learned since that's actually a great way to make money. At the time, I didn't realize. I was just like, surely it's better, but it's way better.
Okay.
It's way better if you get permits, because they're horrible to get. And sometimes you just don't get them, right? It's a public input process. It's a council process. If you're in there talking to the public and talking to councilors and they don't like you, you're not getting your project.
Okay.
Right.
It's that simple. Especially in a small town like
I mean, it's not that simple, but it's like you follow the guidelines of the planning department. You work with them.
Yep.
And they sort of take your project and guide it the way they want to see it. So if it's been done right and there's been no conflict along the way, and you pass that on to council, council sort of has to let it through, but there are many examples where they didn't.
Yeah.
If you get a cocky developer and someone with a bad reputation, and it is a small town.
Yep. Everyone knows each other.
Well, it doesn't matter how big the town is, even Halifax, everyone knows each other, right?
Well, in the industries, yeah.
In the industry, yeah. So I got my permits, and then I remember at the time I needed to do some lot clearing and get some foundation stuff. I pulled off very cheap permits with my buddy. We just like scribbled them on some napkins. We couldn't do that now. But honestly, just then, 5-6 years ago, it was just a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with some scribbles on it. Then we put it into some software and made it look half decent. And I think I paid about 10 grand total for all of my permit costs, which now, if I did it now, would be about 200 grand. That's the difference. So
God.
it was so affordable then, and just the way we did it. A couple young guys all excited. He was excited to do the drawings and to engineer the project, and it's really not that hard to build a box. The architects will tell you otherwise, but it's just not. And we did it, and it worked great. So I remember we put the driveway in, and I had a really rough budget, but it was just garbage. And the bill for the driveway was, I remember the estimate. None of my guys would quote me because they were all in over their head too.
Yeah.
And 20 grand for the driveway just to put a rough driveway in. And I thought, well, geez, I'm not going to make it very far at this rate. And the concrete guys came and put the stem wall in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had this $50,000 bill. I thought, oh, I'm in deep trouble because my operating line had about 500 grand in like a.
That was 10% of your budget gone.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't have anything to show for it. And so I remember borrowing 100 grand from my dad and being like, I'll pay you 8% on this if you give this to me. And that was a lot of work because he had it in his investments everywhere. Yeah. So I'm going to the banks with him. We're emptying it all out and making a big mess. But I needed it.
You need it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the process by which I succeeded in that project is very different than what we can do now. So there was another secret I learned by accident, and I'm so lucky I did it. I didn't have much guidance. My broker, my mortgage broker, was helping me a lot, but this was even a little beyond him.
Yeah.
So the idea is that for a small build, anything under $3 million, a lot of these, this is a real secret I'm giving away here, but I also don't think you can do it anymore this way. If there's any bankers listening, I'm sorry. But this is how I became wealthy in 1 year. So, I mean, I was already doing okay. Like I said, I had this operating line and I was accruing wealth through appreciation in my real estate. And I had done a lot of labor in my buildings that was tax deferred. Like I wasn't paying myself. I was living off the cash flow, living very, very basic lifestyle, still do.
Yep.
But it was working. So
have a sip of water and keep going. You're good.
The secret is that if you can negotiate with the bank what it's going to cost you to build this thing and basically convince them that that's what it's going to cost. So let's say I have a 24 unit building. Yeah. And you tell them it's going to cost $3 million to build.
Okay.
Get all your quotes. It's not hard to do.
Yep.
Everybody does this, right?
Okay.
And then, but I couldn't even get quotes anyway. So they were all estimates. And maybe it was 3 million. I don't remember what it was, but it was a lot of money. And then the bank says, okay, we'll give you 75% of that. So let's change the numbers and make the math easier. Let's say it's 2 million.
Yeah.
So the bank says, I'll give you 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Your goal now is to build that for 1.5 million.
That's your goal, and make 500,000.
Well, and not need any money.
Yeah.
You're making 500,000. Well, you might make more because 2 million was the agreed upon construction cost. Its value is a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
So you have to try to construct it at 75% of what everyone agrees it's going to cost to build.
Okay.
Now, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, you can build this thing for free.
So that's how you built the 48 unit.
Pretty much. And it was so COVID came along right in the middle of it, and I got a divorce too. So things got pretty wacky. I ended up taking a number of private loans out from local dudes and whoever would give me the money. Yeah. Again, really hoping that at the exit, I was going to be able to get out of this and get enough money to pay these guys off. I was so reckless and so clumsy at the time. Now, that said, I do have a physics and math background, so I'm running numbers constantly. But the reality is it could have gone bad many different times. Yeah. And I got lucky, and the market was good. I mean, during COVID, we weren't even allowed to open doors for prospective tenants if they came to look at the units. So I'd have to prop the doors open to all the units. Oh, my God. Yeah, and put a sign up and say, you can go I wasn't allowed to go with them. So say, you can go up to unit 103 and have a look. If you like it, come out here and we'll start the process. But yeah, so I didn't think anyone would want to rent my building. It was almost done, and I was starting to rent the units. Yeah. And luckily, rents all of a sudden started going up.
Yep.
and demand went up. And so I was able to get my rent roll high enough to increase the value of my building, and it appraised out quite high.
What was the final appraisal?
I think for that one it was $4 million.
And for what did you build? What did you build it at? You talked about the
2.3, I think.
2.3, so
Yeah.
almost 100% growth.
Well, yeah. I mean, back then I was building for $120 a square foot.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing now. It's in the 300s.
Oh yeah, it's more than that.
Right. So I mean, the cost of building has over doubled in that time.
When did you finish the 48 unit?
So that was the 24-plex first, and then I went and did 4 6-plexes the next year.
Okay.
And that one's a lot harder. Each 6-plex was its own little story. They were all identical and being built in series.
Yeah.
So you're putting the finishing touches on the first one. The third one's framed kind of thing.
This is when we met.
Is it?
Yeah. You were doing the fan of the podcast. You and he's been a guest. Said I need to meet you. This is 2021, I think, like March 2021. Yeah. And you had just finished the 24 unit.
Yeah.
And you and I drove down to Wolfville, and we met you on where you were building.
Oh yes, now I remember.
Yeah, we were building and you walked me through the back 6 units, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Just tell me everything you were doing, and you were full of piss and vinegar then.
Yeah, still am, but it's gotten a lot harder. So the first 6-plex, I think that the bank looked at all 4 of them, so 24 unit.
Yeah.
And they had an as-if complete appraisal at the time of, I think it was $4 million.
Okay.
So they believed the value of each building to be about $1 million.
Okay.
And I convinced the bank I could build it for $850.
Okay.
And maybe it was going to be $850. So the first one I built for $650. But then it got worse. The second one was, $725. And when I got to the last one, it was $950. So, the magic was starting to wear away fast.
Was that because COVID cost materials and just getting things
cost
in?
of materials, labor shortage. I couldn't get anybody, man. I had these guys that are all on drugs working in there, and anybody I could find, and bless their hearts for coming and doing their best. We got it done, but it was not pretty. I mean, it was the craziest labor shortage. You put an ad on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, hey, looking for a carpenter, looking for just nothing. No, you could have put $100 an hour on there. I don't think you would have gotten anybody. Nobody was working. It was insane, right?
This is 2021.
This was 2021.
Yeah. So you're trying to get these 3 buildings finished, and you think you can do it for X, and you're doing it for Y.
Yeah.
And your profit that you made on the first one is being eaten up by the last one because you can't get materials, you can't get them guys. So you finally get through this.
I get through it. I sold all the other buildings I was talking about earlier. I sold all those because I was in the middle of a divorce.
All the multis.
Sold all the smaller stuff, yeah.
Okay, got rid of the whole thing.
Yeah, to help, pay off my ex and deal with that mess.
Yeah.
And so when I got out of this thing, I had not $1 of money left, but I had the buildings. Leveraged nicely.
Yeah, you were leveraged to the teeth.
No, I wasn't actually. No, because which we'll talk about in a bit, is the exits from these projects. They will never let you exit on value anymore. So maybe they never did. I don't know. I know that when I was doing my 4-plexes and 5-plexes and small stuff, they were letting me exit on value all the time. But part of the reason is they didn't know what it costs. So you buy some little 4-plex, some whole thing. You fix it up, and then you go to the bank. You go knock into the bank. You don't have debt on it because you bought it with your line of credit. Yeah. They can't see any liens. Yeah. And so you just say, "Hey, look what I have," and they send an appraiser in. Oh, that thing's worth $500. They give you $400. Yeah. Everybody's laughing. But with these bigger projects, everything is audited typically. So even if your financial strategy with the construction loan is a little tweaked like mine was, in the end, you're never going to get out of there with a value exit. So they know what it cost. They want the report. They see what you truly paid. Yeah. And with CMHC, at the time, I was able to exit with, I think, a 95% cost exit. Okay. Maybe it was 90. Maybe it was 85. It was high enough that I got enough back to clean up my messes. Yeah. Have no money at all left.
But you clean up all your messes.
Didn't even pay my dad back.
Didn't even, not his 8%?
Yes. He got his 8%. I was able to do that. I was cash flowing well. Okay. So here I am stuck in these mortgages that are at 2.5%, and they're great. Right? Yeah. So I'm cash flowing fine. I'm surviving off these buildings now. Yeah. And so I have those buildings and I have my house, and then it's like COVID is winding down, and I'm feeling skilled now.
Yeah, you just got through that.
I'm feeling like I know kind of what I'm doing, but now everything's upside down. So
define upside down. Why was that?
Well, the interest rates were starting to go up like crazy. Yep. I was out of money.
You were out of money.
I was upside down. Yeah. and materials were either impossible to get or overpriced, and the labor shortage was still very real.
Okay.
I had secured a piece of land across the street, which I thought was very creative. Basically, I combined 3 pieces of land into a larger piece.
Yeah.
Went after each one in my own little way.
Yep.
Some of them were private, knock on doors. Hey, can I chop the backyard off your house and add it into my lot? And I did all this with no money because I knew that if I combined these lots, I could get the value of the land up.
Yeah.
And get a land mortgage on it.
Yeah.
A land loan. And that's exactly what I did. So I took some private loans out with buddies.
Yep.
Bought it. I think it was 8%. Maybe it was $300,000 or something at 8%. Took me about a year to combine all these lots, and then went to the bank and got it appraised at 8.
Okay.
Got my 400 back. Paid all these guys off. So now I've got this nice piece of land that I have no money in. However, I am paying debt on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it. So actually, funny story is I'm selling that land. The reason I bring it up is because I was desperate to keep my crew going.
Okay.
And to keep the dream alive, which is to build housing.
Yeah.
Right. Like my housing is reasonable. It's supposed to be. Not overpriced.
You want fair market value.
Well, I do, and I do a lot of things to bring the cost down. And for a long time, my rents were under market.
Okay.
Yeah. So my granite I bring in from China.
Yep.
It's like a B grade granite. You know about these things.
Yep.
I have a few little tricks up my sleeve for trying to get the cost down, and I've been pretty good at doing it. And then try to transfer some of that to the tenant so that they're not drowning.
Yeah. Rather than charging, the premium for the premium materials, premium rent, you're trying to help the tenant out by, not cutting corners, but just finding materials and products that are less than what the typical market is offering in Canada or at your local Home Depot can.
Yeah.
And
like train a $20 an hour guy to build tile showers. They're a little bit imperfect. They're not going to fly in a custom $1 million home, but they're going to look great in a rental. And a tenant who comes in here has never seen a tiled shower, let alone been in one, let alone lived in a unit with one, or a granite countertops or anything like that. So I was really good at bringing this design. It's more of a design thing, right? Bringing these elements of nice design into the rental for a good price. Yeah. So I wasn't offering the cheapest of rentals. I mean, these rentals have cooling and floor heat and nice things like that. But I also wasn't going for that maximum baby boomer underground parking recipe either. And
as back, I mean, we were only talking about 3 years ago, and the market because I remember we saw when we met you in 2021, you and I had driven around to a few other developers to see what they were doing, and they were going for that high end boomer market. Always,
they still are.
Yeah, it was that that high end stuff that you were like, well, what are you gonna charge for rent? And they would tell you, and you'd be like, oh. But even by today's standards, I still remember in 2021 being like, that's high. If you can get that, that's impressive. But you're gonna get it'd be someone that has to sell their house and is done downsizing to an apartment, but has all the high end bells and whistles, and you can't justify long term because when you come out of those and you lose those baby boomers, can you keep that rent?
Well, even before the baby boomers die, you bring in a super stable, well-behaved tenant. Great. Yeah. Who doesn't love baby boomers? My parents are baby boomers. I love them. Most interesting generation to ever hit the planet, no question. Good and bad. But but they don't want the rents to be cranked up. So what happened during COVID is rents accelerated fast, and people that had stable tenants suffered because the values of their buildings have suffered, and they can't unload these things. And for my buildings, it's been good because I have a more transient base of tenants, younger people. They're either buying their first home or whatever, for whatever reason, they're not staying around. I have a high turnover. I have a 25% turnover rate, which I used to hate. But I'll tell you, in the last 2 years, it's been great because to contradict myself, I am cranking my rents up now. I have to because my 5-year refinance will be coming.
Yeah. So you locked into your rates, what, 2020 or 2021?
2020.
5-year fixed?
Yeah. Then, with CMHC, it's always 5 years.
Yeah.
So or 10-year, which I wish I'd done, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And because what we did is we built the first building, got it all CMHC'd, and then we built the other ones. We sort of packaged it up. Yeah. So in 2 years, I suppose, or a year and a half, that's going to come due. If I don't have my rents up, then my value will suffer. Yeah. And I'm not going to get the refi that I want. The refis these days are never on value anyway. They're always on your debt ratio. Yes. Right? So your debt coverage. And I think I'll hit ceiling on debt coverage before I hit ceiling on value anyway. But I've been watching the value of my building like a hawk. It's easy to calculate. and it's not where I needed to be to get out of this thing alive. I mean, I might have $3 million equity in that project. In a year and a half, it can come due. I might actually lose money, right? Like,
right.
The value of the building is going to be low. It might even go down a little bit if I can't, because the cap rate is changing.
Yeah, because you need to get the rents up to keep your
rents
thresholds.
And cap rate are the only two variables that can affect the value of your building. And you know, rents aren't going down, but they're not going up fast enough. And if the cap rate goes up, you know, we're running a 5 cap in Wolfville right now. If that goes to a 6, well, there's like probably $1 million or whatever. In my building.
Okay.
So then a refi, as much as I can, and now my debt payments are 50% higher.
Yep.
And that thing is no longer keeping me alive, but it also didn't spit out a huge chunk of money either, which always happens on the refi.
Yeah.
Give me my $500,000, please. I'm going to go do another project with it.
Yeah.
So it may not spit that out, and my cash flow. So my cash flow can plummet, and I might not get any money out. So it's just stuck in there. So then it forces you to want to sell.
Yeah.
Which we don't want to see, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of it, right?
The only thing worse than that is if you didn't keep your rents up, now you're forced to sell, and the building it's up for sale for $3 million, like this little 24-plex down the road here, and it's worth 1.5.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because they have them all stuck in periodic leases.
Oh, and they're all really low-paying renters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're in a state of rent control.
Yep.
I can't just go in there and say, hey, you, old man.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Like, it doesn't work that. I wouldn't do it if I could. These are human beings we're talking about, right? Like, they're not chess pieces. They're humans, and I care about them. So I don't want to pick up some other guy's poorly managed building.
No.
Really. It's not my interest. I'd rather build from scratch.
Yeah. So you got your original building, 48 units. That's 25% turnover. That's helping you keep your turnover the rents to keep your value high when the refinance comes up in a year's time, because your 5-year fix is up and you have to lock in new rates, whatever they may be at that time. Either way, your payments are going up,
of course.
Because you're not going to get 2.25 again, or 2.25.
No.
If you're lucky by then. We just did an episode on this, so hopefully 4, 3.5, maybe at the lowest 3.5. We'll see. Okay, so that's coming up. So then you consolidated this lot.
Yeah. But that story goes nowhere because I'm selling the lot right now.
Why are you selling the lot?
I want to make some money.
Okay.
It's hard finding money right now because we're going to start talking about the fact that there's no money in building multifamily right now. It's very challenging. So
I actually want to go there right now.
Yeah.
Well, why is there no money right now in multifamily building?
Well, because your interest rates are so high that cash flowing is only possible if rents are very high.
Okay.
Higher than they currently stand. People are already uncomfortable paying the rents that we see now.
Okay.
But the issue here is that people are disincentivized to build.
Okay.
And with the slowdown in building, which is happening.
Yep.
Pretty pronounced, actually.
Yeah.
Demand is continuing to rise.
Yes.
And the prices will follow to some degree, although we're in an interesting state right now. Some really weird things are happening, and I'm watching them like a hawk, trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, I know I have a sense of it. There's some deeper stuff going on here, which we'll also talk about.
Yeah.
But if you can't be incentivized to build, then a lot of these rich developers will wait.
Yes.
And that's the worst thing we can do right now. We need to create more capacity, fitting capacity, something that people actually need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we are in a housing crisis. Very much so right now. We talk about it often.
Yeah.
The reason why we're doing this episode, the reason why I thought of you is and the reason for the topic is because the government in September, federal government came out with waiving GST and HST on multifamily developers. And I was reading it again this morning to refresh myself, because we've been talking about this since October. Is that if you apply to build a multifamily between now and December and 2030, you can waive your GST and HST if the project is done by 2035. So when you say you cannot build right now because it's not cost inducive or not cash flowing for most people, how big of an impact will that GST, HST be being waived by the federal government help you guys? And they're even trying to push the federal government's even trying to push the provincial governments to waive GST, HST as well, to push what they're calling the Housing Accelerator Fund, which actually, I don't know if you saw this, and it hasn't been talked about enough, but this is funny enough that this came up last week, that the Halifax the Housing Accelerator Fund,
the federal program,
it came up in HRM, and no one's talking about it. And I find it very fascinating that no one's talking about it, because in HRM, what they proposed by the Housing Accelerator Fund is every single family and lot on the peninsula of Halifax, you're allowed to build up to 6 units now.
Right.
Just a small correction here on the Housing Accelerator Fund. I looked back at what they're proposing just to make sure I was right in what I said. The municipality is proposing allowing a minimum of 4 units in all residential zones within the urban service area to enable more housing. That's a minimum of 4 units. Whether that's capped at 6 or higher is up to the municipality. Just want to make sure we got this clarified. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Increase the density.
They increased the whole density of the whole peninsula up to 6 units.
Did this in a number of places.
Yeah.
I mean, they effectively did it here in the valley in a less intense way. I mean, that has its own implications, what you just told me, like in terms of devaluing existing dense land and things like that. But they just introduced the secondary suite program in Nova Scotia.
That was 2021. They reduced an HRM, and they've introduced the secondary suite, I think, as a provincial thing. I think
they'll give you $25,000 if you build
a secondary.
If you take the responsibility of government into your own backyard,
yeah.
why don't we build medical centers too while we're at it? We'll talk about that too. That's another really important thing, is the responsibility of the government. Whose responsibility is it to build housing and have housing? So as a private developer, you'd think I wouldn't say the government, but actually believe very strongly that it is.
Yeah.
Housing is a very complex issue, like health, like roads.
Yes.
Like military. Why the hell are they trying to convince me to build a secondary suite in my backyard? This is coming from a guy, probably the only guy around here that's actually built a couple of them. I built one just last month for my mom.
Yeah.
She was living with me in my home, and so I built her this granny suite. We built it together. My mom also builds. She's awesome. So we worked on this thing. I've got a crew too, but all together we get her up. And I didn't get my $25,000. It's a mountain of work to get it, and apparently you have to apply for the permits before you start building. And I just can't wait. So off we went. But I don't think you want to empower citizens who are already having a hard enough time managing their own homes with adding more complexity to their space. There's no financial model there at all. $25,000 or not, it's a mess. If they pull $100,000 out of the value of their home and start a granny suite, because it's going to cost you $200,000 to build a granny suite. I don't care who you are.
I was going to say the problem with the $25,000 thing on the granny suite thing is, I was going to say it's going to cost $150,000, $175,000 to build the thing, and we're talking what, 600 square foot, 800 square feet granny suite. Like, how big of a thing did you build for your grandmother? I mean, your mother. 800 square feet.
Yeah.
$200,000.
Well, I built a garage and put it in with it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm an affordable builder, but if you're paying retail, you're going to pay $300 a square foot.
Yeah.
Nothing less right now. There's nobody that's going to come in there, take care of business for under $300 a square foot. And I mean, you might find someone nice enough to take care of the permitting, because there's still a lot to it.
Yeah.
You're densifying your lot. You're
Yes.
jamming this little house in there. It hardly fits. You know, do you dig into the road to plug in your sewer pipe? Do you have water shedding problems in your neighbors? These things all have to be ironed out with professionals, engineering, surveying, design. These towns are, it's not, housing is a professional process now.
Yeah.
Not like it once was. You can't just slap things up. And,
Not like 6 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, for my mom's granny suite, just last month, I had to do engineering, water grading costs, which was probably $5,000.
Yeah.
Design was, probably $500. Surveying would be a couple thousand. And by the time you're done, your soft costs are $10,000 for a little tiny granny suite.
Yeah, and that's soft. Like, that's not even getting into building it.
That's not even building it. And then the granny suite program, or the secondary suite program, is targeted at least in some way toward family.
Yeah.
So you can get your adult child living in there. You can get your parents living in there.
Yep.
But if you rent it to the open market, you are limited and rent controlled at, I think, 80% of market rates. So they're limiting that.
They're asking you to take up an upfront cost of, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Giving you cents on the dollar to do it for them.
Yep.
And then they're cash strapping you with rent control of 80% to open the market.
So let's run some just loose numbers here. Let's say it does cost $200,000 to build your granny suite.
Yeah.
So you're making a nice one. Let's say you can even get $2,000 a month rent in the open market for that.
Yeah.
So you pull $200,000 out of your house because
Yep.
you own your house because you're a baby boomer and you've got this loser
You
fucking kid.
You bought it in 2001 for $100K.
No, you bought it in 1992 or 1972, for $80K.
Yeah.
And the thing's worth $600,000, and you're not paying any debt, and so you're like laughing, and all is good. And so you pull $200,000 out of it. Now you're sweating because you don't like the idea of being dead again.
Yep.
And you build this thing, and then you put your kid in there.
Yep.
You don't want your kid in there, first off.
Yeah.
Now, I want my mom there. Okay, it's different. But not everybody wants their mom living there.
Not everybody wants their
kid living there, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants a stranger living there. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
But $200,000. What's the debt payment on $200,000 if you pull it out of your house? Even if you use a HELOC.
At today's rates, you're looking at 10-12%.
Yeah, at least 8.
Yeah.
But definitely, let's just say 10 because it's easy.
Yeah.
So that's $20,000 a year debt payment there.
Yeah.
So you're renting it for $2,000 a month? No, you're not. You're renting it for 80% of $2,000 a month. So it's more like 15 or 16.
That's not enough to cover your costs.
And it's hardly covering your debt. And now you've got your power and your this and your that.
Your utilities. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably losing money.
A little bit.
To have an asshole living in your property. And the government's like, ha ha ha. They're inundated with applications, but a lot of the applications are naive applicants.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'm going to turn my basement apartment into a secondary suite and make money.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it for $25,000. And I'm like, it's not going to cost you $200,000 to convert your basement.
No.
It's going to cost $100,000.
Yeah.
And so now you have a guy living under you who's smoking, and he's like thumping with a broom because he didn't do proper sound separation because you can't, because you're in a bungalow, right? You didn't do a concrete slab. You didn't do anything like that. And so this poor guy downstairs it's the whole thing's a mess.
Yeah.
Right? Don't empower the people to try to solve a problem that the government created. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So the flip side, they're not going to get any capacity through this program.
Yeah.
Let's say 100 people built granny suites in Nova Scotia due to that. Would be high. I can't imagine they're getting that many, but that would be great.
Yeah.
So 100 units is going to hold 2 people each. So there's 200 people. Well, what's Nova Scotia's growth rate right now?
It's higher than that.
Let's say it's even 1%. That's 100,000 people just rolled into Nova Scotia. No, that's 10%.
That's at 10%.
10,000 people
yeah.
rolled into Nova Scotia next year.
1% growth.
Right. Even at 1%. I think it's higher than 1%. I mean, they're recording down here in the valley 2% in the last couple of years, 3%. Yeah. The point is, the numbers don't match. 100 granny suites is not going to do it.
Yeah.
So the other real thing is the HST, GST, whatever you call it.
I was going to say, let's bring it back to that. The
Yep.
GST, HST being waived,
yeah.
right? Because that's their way of saying we want you, the developer.
So now they're doing the right thing.
Yep.
They're reaching out to the bigger players.
Yeah.
Instead of empowering Tom and Jane to build a house in their backyard, they're saying, okay, anyone that's big and rich and knows what they're doing, build me 1,000 units.
Yeah.
Right? That's not me, but that's a lot of these big guys. I am taking advantage of the program, though, for the record, because every little bit helps.
Yeah, of course.
It's not enough. So CMHC kind of runs the show. Anything they want done happens. Back in the 70s, they pushed a lot of these multifamily programs, and people used them, and then we saw all those 70s brick buildings fly up across the country.
Yeah.
And then they were pushing home ownership for a while, using insured
mortgages
for commoners.
Yeah, 5% down.
Right, and that was great, and all of a sudden everyone was living in a house.
Yep.
Now they're changing their tune again. They want to see multifamily. They want to see big builds.
Yes.
So it marries well with the HST exemption program because they're offering a couple different programs, both which allow a guy like me to build a building for about 5% down.
Oh, it's a down payment.
Well, it's a construction loan.
Yeah.
And so if it's a $10 million project, I need to come up with $500,000. The reality is I'm going to need to come up with a lot more than that because you have buffering expenses. Just try to picture the concrete guy's there and he's got concrete all over his boots and he's like, I need some money. Like, oh, hold on. Well, CMHC rates me a check. I don't think so. Right. You got to get him his $100,000 for his foundation work, and then something else is going to happen. And calculating the exact cost when it comes to cash flowing a construction deal is actually very complicated.
Okay.
It depends on a lot of moving parts. For example, credit from your suppliers.
Yeah.
And so on. But the point is the 5% is probably not 5%.
Yeah.
But even then, at the end, it is 5%. You can exit this project. The problem is that if you're 95% leveraged on the exit, on cost, not value. So it costs you $10 million to build the project. It might pan out at $12 million.
Yeah.
But it's still costing you 10.
Yeah.
And this time you can't trick the banks. You're way past that now. You're in with the big players and you're using cost auditors, these guys that dig through your stuff every month, and so there's no tricks.
Okay.
So if it costs $10 million, it costs $10 million. And matter of fact, the bank's only going to give you course, what you agreed upon. So
95%. You
Yeah.
need 5% down. They're gonna fund you 9,500,000. Yeah.
9,500,000.
Yeah.
The other 500,000 is coming from us, right?
Yeah.
So I hate losing 500,000 in a building when I'm not cash flowing anything, right? So
Yeah.
there's no interest coming in on my 500,000 part.
Yes.
CMHC's getting theirs, and it's preferential rates too.
Yep.
It might be as low as 4%.
Yep.
That's a moving target as well, but and we don't know where that's going to be. But we lock in for 5, sometimes 10 years on the program. So you get your renters in there, and the program requires you to satisfy some of CMHC's demands, and it can be accessibility, it can be affordability, and it can be environmental stewardship or energy efficiency, I guess they use that word.
Yeah.
So there's different point systems. We have done this already once, and I'll talk about it, and this is what we did in Kentville.
Yeah.
And I say we because to backtrack real quick, I found partners. That's how I got through the mess. That's how I got unturned upside down. Okay? I leveraged myself.
So the whole moral of the story at the end of the 48 unit, you found partners.
I found partners.
Joint venture.
A number of them.
Yeah.
And some worked better than others, and some came and went, but there's 2 partners I have now, and we've got a pretty solid thing going on. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back to where we were.
Okay.
So you were talking about when you work with CMHC on this preferred program, GST, HST is waived, 5% down. You have stipulations that you have to meet for these builds. So affordability, accessibility, energy efficient, green, whatever the hell it is. And the fourth one, I forget what that is.
No, there's not a fourth one.
Okay, so those are your 3. Okay, so those are your 3. You said you did that in Kentville.
Yeah.
So what did you do in Kentville?
We built 18 houses, townhouses.
18 row townhouses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rentals, or are you selling them?
I tried to sell them. They didn't move fast, and so we flipped them to a rental model real fast. It was a tricky time. It was kind of middle of winter.
This was, I saw them.
2022.
I was going to say, I saw them last year.
Yeah, winter of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were there in the summer 2023.
Yeah, they were finished.
Yeah. We were there.
So the first ones came up winter of 2022.
Okay.
The first six townhouses, and that's when the world was getting strange, right?
Yeah.
And people weren't, that Ontario rush was over.
Yep. The Ontario boom and the BC boom had expired because they realized the jig is up.
Yeah. Now we built these, their intention from the beginning, because we were still hooked on the drug of cheap money from yesteryear.
Yeah.
Was to do what we normally do. Of course, we wanted to sell them because I needed money. I had no money left.
You wanted the money out.
I wanted money out. Yeah. I didn't want this build and hold thing.
Yeah.
I already had that. It was cash flowing me enough to survive, but nothing more. I couldn't build more. So
yeah,
this allowed me to build.
Okay.
And but the buyers were limited.
Yeah.
Their demands were high.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to this selling houses thing, and I just said, yeah, I'm not doing that. So let's get some renters in here. This is a little side tangent, but it coincided well with the fact that a lot of people had been displaced from their little rentals. Little house rentals, little bungalows scattered throughout Nova Scotia with families in there for $500 a month or $800 a month. And the owner's like, whoa, time to cash in, Ontario.
Yeah. And then you do owner occupancy, which has been a big thing, has been buyers buying, first-time home buyers,
100%.
second-time home buyers buying houses in highly desirable areas where you had a tenant with an undervalued rent. So and because of a rent cap of periodic leases, owner can't raise rents, so the property can't cash flow, they get rid of it.
Of course.
Someone moves in, owner occupancy, 60 days. The new owner's in, the tenant's out. So you got the displaced tenants.
Yes, and the displacement was so bad that I would say 50% of all applicants at the time for my rentals were displaced people. It was that bad.
No way.
It was crazy, man. And they were desperate. Never rent to a desperate person, by the way.
Okay.
Right? Because it's not good. They'll say, I'll take anything. I had people saying, I'll take it. I don't even want to see it. Well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I want you to see it. I want you to feel like you're going to be comfortable in this community. This is a community. So it was a crazy time. Because of that, the model got flipped upside down. We reached out, CMHC said this is a perfect thing for what we do.
Yep.
We have brokers and stuff, and we put the time and energy into it. It's quite a process, right? You have to prove to them that you have been doing some energy efficient steps. You have to prove to them that it's going to be affordable if you're doing that. You have to prove to them that it's going to be accessible if you're doing that. And so we were lucky in that we just always build really well. Like we build spray foam, triple pane windows, heat pumps, lots of ICF. Because of that, our energy efficiency was already very high, and we just passed by chance. Had we not, I don't know how we would have exited that.
Okay,
it wouldn't have been nice.
Yeah,
because we needed that 95% loan.
Yep.
To
get out.
Yeah, to get out.
Yeah,
and now we weren't limited by rent, so we could charge market rent.
Okay,
and we're cash flowing just a little above Zero, not much, but just enough to get out of there. We have a lot of pent up assets there now. We built a road. We have a lot of lots that we're going to continue to build on. So it's not a total loss, but it wasn't what I would consider a great success story.
Yeah.
And again, that's because we were trying to build under the standard model.
Yeah, you were trying to sell them. You weren't trying to rent them. That play wasn't buy and hold. It just became buy and hold after, because you were trying to sell them winter 2022 into 2023 when the rates had kicked everyone in the nuts.
Yeah, it
right.
was a terrible time.
So buyers weren't like what you would have gotten in 2020 was not what you were.
I know. But if I'd gone and designed a community of like smaller, more rental targeted style, I don't know that it would have been a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Just a terrible time for everybody, both renters and landlords alike.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I could never do that now.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what I did in 2020 now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, with the CMHC programs and the HST exemption, maybe you can.
I was going to say, because this is why we're here.
That's why we're here. What we're talking about is the government going to take responsibility to help make apartments affordable or not. And these are all different examples we're talking about of techniques they're trying. Yeah. And I guess the real question is it going to work?
Well, that was why I'm asking is now that you see it as a developer, when you see GST and HST being waived, are you rubbing your hands thinking, okay, now I can get back to work? No, you're not rubbing your hands. Can't get back to work.
It's not enough. No, it's not enough. It helps.
Yeah.
I think we couldn't make the pro formas work without the HST exemption 6 months ago. Okay. And then this announcement came out. I mean, I have an HST consultant that I use, of course, because when you get up into this stuff, HST, like CRA and you become
best friends.
Intertwined. Best friends is where
the best of worst enemies.
The best. Fine line between love and hate, let's just say. But, I have cried myself to sleep due to things CRA has done to me in the past. And so this information was enjoyed when it came out. Right? They're leaving me alone now as well. Like, not only are they wiping the HST, but they're now not bothering us nearly as much.
Okay. They'll let you do the work.
Well, usually CRA is in your face like crazy when you're building big buildings, right?
Yeah.
Especially halfway through before you're done.
Yeah.
They come in and So, really, it's at the end particularly. They always want a piece of the pie.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, that's all governments do.
That's what they do.
So, okay. So you don't think this stuff will help?
It'll help. It's what it's going to do. So CMHC's programs, if you're curious, MLI Select is one of the better ones, and this is the one we used. Yeah. The RF Rental Construction, RCFI is their other program. I know a little bit about it, but not as much. And it's similar in that they're actually lending you money directly. CMHC is not a bank. Yes. But they are actually lending money to builders under these programs directly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then you exit at the end with a traditional bank with a CMHC ticket like you normally would.
Yeah.
So you go to BMO, you go to whoever.
Yeah. So you CMHC helps you build the product, and on your exit, then you go to a real bank, get your appraisal,
No, you don't. Because you can't exit on value.
Oh, yes.
So
it's got to be on rentals.
Appraisal, it's just a cost audit. So it's everything you spent money on. It's like, here's my $10 million of stuff I spent money on. It's in a big stack of papers. They say, okay, thanks to CMHC, we can give you $9.5 million. Yeah. You have to leave your $500 in. And so with your $500 in, the big question here is, well, if you're leaving $500,000 of your money in this project, what's your money worth? Well, these days, nobody has real money. Every dollar I have and every dollar my companies have is on a line of credit somewhere. Yeah, it's tied up. Pulling my own money out is costing me 10%. Yeah. So if I have $500,000 of my money in there, it sounds like very little. I mean, compared to $10 million. Yeah. It's still a lot of money. Most people don't have that kind of money. Yeah. And so, and like I say, after my life was turned upside down, I didn't have any. So I needed to get really creative. So I couldn't even do that. I need to find other people with money. So of course their money needs a return. Yes. And if it's costing them 10% to take money out, and they want to make money on top of that, really, they need to make 15-20% because you can put your money in the stock market and make 5%. Yeah. So. And you're not taking it out. You're just shifting assets. You're shifting things around. Yeah. Yeah. It's never real cash. It never ever is it real cash. So even if it was, if you had true cash under your bed, would you take $500,000 and put it into a project where you may never get any return on it? I'd rather stick in the stock market.
Or keep it under my mattress and let inflation eat it.
And let inflation destroy it. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so by the sounds of it, this this. So who is okay in your opinion then? Because you're not. You said this a few times. You're not the big guy with all the money in the world.
No.
Right. So would the GST HST solution help them out, like the big builders, the big developers who have the cash flow, who have the means to build more units? Like, will this ultimately help build more units for the housing market?
Okay, it will help build more than zero, which is what's happening right now. Right?
Okay.
There's very little being built right now.
Okay.
Look out the window. I mean, it's not zero, but it's really slowing down.
Yeah.
And the reason is the number of issues we brought up.
Yes.
I mean, really, the numbers just don't work well. And if you step back for a minute, there's a couple big things going on. If it costs double to construct buildings, but rents only went up 30%, something's out of alignment, right?
Yeah.
And we can't say, well, rents need to double then. Well,
no.
Well, maybe they may actually have to make those numbers work, but there's other things that will break first, which we'll talk about. I've written on my piece of paper here.
Okay.
But
we'll bring them up now.
I just want to finish your question about the HST. So CMHC is no dummy, and they're very well aware that as they screw with knobs and play with people's lives, that many people are going to duck out on purpose.
Yes.
And they want people to calm the hell down. Right. That's what the Bank of Canada is trying to do here.
Yeah, the rates.
Stop. Hey, a head of lettuce is $9. I have an idea. Don't fucking buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get us. They're actually trying to get into our psyche.
Yes.
And get us to behave differently, more like we behaved in 1950.
Yeah. Count your pennies. Don't spend them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They said that savings, the percentage of savings last maybe 10 years ago was 0.6%. So the average person was saving 0.6% of their income. And now it's 5%. That's a huge. Now don't quote me on those. I think that's what I read in the article, and I just burst out laughing out loud. It's like, but there's no money, and no one has any money, but they're saving more now. So we're going back to that grandpa way of thinking, which is important, I guess, for the Bank of Canada.
Yes.
Everyone was jumping on the same stuff, throwing their money in, buying the $12 2x4s, and you just can't do that forever.
Well, 2022 was that year was the year of nonsense.
Right.
Like we talk about it a lot in the podcast where we bring up. When realtors come on, we bring up 2022 in that market, and that market was stupid, like just beyond stupid. And in a sense of like you were getting, 20, 30, 40 offers per house in Halifax. And like when you say 2005 in Toronto, your realtor said per offer at $5,000. We were adding $10,000 per offer.
Halifax, which is not Toronto.
In Halifax, we were like, what's this going to cost? You know what I mean? So in that regard, like that's the whole point of rates was to slow down spending. That's all they wanted to do.
Slow down spending, and not just spending, but change the way people think.
Yeah.
And changing the way people think is hard to do after they've been living a certain way and with a certain standard. So we're going to keep bringing up the word standard here lots and lots and lots, because that's another thing that can break.
Yes.
So CMHC, they're balancing two impossible things. They're saying we need to make more housing fast.
Yep.
But we can't make it easy. Because if we make it easy, people are going to keep spending $9 on a head of lettuce.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Right? If it's easy, people will spend their stupid money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So don't make it too easy.
No.
They literally said that they're tuning their knobs to ensure that about half of developers ease off while the other half continue on. It's the guys who have crews that are going to keep building.
Yeah.
Because they have to and because they want to. They feel dedicated to their workers. So there's a number of developers in Halifax that run big crews, and they're going to keep building. They may adjust a little bit to how much they're building.
Yeah.
But if you take my crew, like I have 2 construction companies that I work, like I own parts of.
Yeah.
One has 10 guys and does like construction, and the other has 7 or 8, and we do excavation work. If you add up all the work those 2 companies have done for my projects over the past few years, it's never more than 10%. So massive amount of subs coming in and out of these projects as well. Now that we've slowed down, the last project I did was I haven't run my numbers exactly, but I'm estimating we're at about 50%.
Okay.
Because I built a 4-plex just over the past couple months to keep my guys going.
Yeah.
Not 10 of them though. Like I had 5 of them, and the other 5 were off doing random stuff. Yeah. But that was enough to keep those guys going.
Okay.
And then we did about 50% of the project, which actually you don't want. Things get inefficient if there's, if your guys are doing too much stuff.
Yeah.
You want them rolling in and being very good at one task and rolling out again, which is why when doing big projects, you're only doing 5 to 10% of the work, which is great. So these big guys in Halifax that have crews, they'll adapt, but they'll keep their crews going, so things will get built.
Yes.
The HST exemption is fantastic. It's 15%, but you have to pay it first. It's a rebate. Oh yeah, buddy. And it's 15% on everything. You buy a 2x4, you're getting the 15% back. So it's awesome.
Yes.
But people figured out very quickly, like immediately, that there was this new piece of pie they all wanted a bite of.
Yes.
Times are tough, and it's wild, wild west out here. So Suppliers are going to react to that. Oh, wait a minute. These builders are saving 15% now. Well, I want a little piece of that. So the 2x4 goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
The appraisers, the banks right away. Well, can we appraise it at the same value? If the builder just saved 15%, doesn't that reduce the value of the building? So there's all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
The provincial portion of that HST thing, is that screwing up your...
No, you're good.
I can take it off.
No, you're good.
Someone's harassing me here on my phone. Bad guy. Yeah, so the provincial side of that, the feds did it first. And
Yes.
Trudeau opened his big mouth and
Yep.
said, no GST.
GST. Yeah.
And everyone's like, shit, I can't believe you just said that. What's that mean? What are the implications of that? And the
Yeah.
accountants are losing their minds. And then they're like, and every province should do it too. And we're all waiting, like white knuckling it.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks or months or whatever it was, the provincial government announced it. Same thing, though.
Yeah.
They hadn't thought for a second of what that meant.
Yes.
And so the actual details are only now being released as to what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
You're still going to pay it up front. You're going to pay it up front. You're going to get it as a
rebate.
ITC, man. You're going to get that as a tax credit like anything else.
Yeah. So when you're going to pay everything up front, and when you come to do your tax season, you're going to claim all the HST.
Well, not during, like tax credits when you're doing big commercial stuff can be claimed at any time. So it's not like about timing. It's just the fact that you've got to pay it in.
It's never a lever that you have to deal with.
It's another lever you've got to deal with, and you can be sure they're going to want a lot more red tape that comes with it.
Yeah.
I suspect. I don't know. We haven't used that program yet.
Will you?
Yes, of course. It's 15% savings on $10 million. That's $1.5 million, right? It's huge. But again, if you have a cost exit,
yes,
right? So it's like, okay, I've got $10 million cost. This is what it costs to build this thing. Let's make the math different. 11.5 because we've got tax on there.
Yeah.
10 million without tax, 11.5 with tax. So I'm getting 95% of one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got 95% of a big, huge loan, no matter how you look at it. And there we go. Sorry, my son calling.
Don't worry.
I'm not going to answer the phone. You're
You're a busy guy.
Probably walking. No, it's my kids.
GST, HST.
GST, HST.
You're 11.5.
Right, there we go. 11.5. So I'm just trying to say, like, the savings aren't like you think they are. You didn't just pocket $1.5 million because your debt is either $9.5 million or it's,
10 and a quarter
right,
or whatever 15%.
10 and a bit.
Yeah.
Which is a huge amount of money.
Yes.
And so you say, but Travis, you get that on the tail end. And you say, well, the tail end is not like it used to be. You don't just hold your property for 10 years, giggle away as the principal gets chewed down by the tenant, and then make a whole bunch of money. What happens now is because your debt payment is so highly leveraged, there is no principal pay down. And we have $7 million worth of...
You're just servicing debt.
Yeah, you're just servicing debt. So I think a 5-year pay down for us was $250,000 or something, or maybe $500,000. I don't care what it is. It's nothing. It's insignificant on a $7 or $8 million project.
Yeah.
So 5 years goes by and there's no exit. So you say, well, you'll get it on the tail end, that HST. Well, you don't. There is no tail end. Now, things could change completely if appreciation starts going up. Yeah. But as it currently stands, the value of your building from year to year can't really grow by more than 5% because we have a 5% rent cap on.
Yeah, because it's tied to the rent.
It's tied to the rent. The value of your building is 100% how much rent it makes and the cap rate, like we said. Yeah. So it could be even worse. We could have a 5% of rent cap.
Yes.
I should be clear about a rent cap and cap rate are two different things.
Yes.
Probably most listeners know this, but...
Hopefully.
Yep, hopefully. Or don't turn it off now if you don't. Sorry. But, your rent cap is 5% per year. Yes. And then your cap rate could be going up. Yes. And if it does, then the value of your building could actually go down. Yeah. In the future. Yeah. And we need it to go up in order to find an exit years down the road, or there's really no incentive for me to build these buildings. Yeah, because the incentive is financial freedom and wealth building. That's the whole point of getting into real estate and developing is so that you can get out. But if there is no wealth building at the end of it, why get into building the headache of these grand models? I mean, I want to build because I feel a great force to create housing capacity in my community. That's why I build. Okay. But I can't do it for free. Yeah. I need to make a little something. I don't need to get rich. But it's super stressful. I mean, it's a horrible job. You're really selling it here. Oh, man. I mean, I can send you videos of me being in front of the UARB getting screamed at by yokels and stuff, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. And it's keeping you up at night, and you're getting text messages from people saying they hate you or whatever. You're being vandalized. I've had my properties vandalized. I've had a number of thefts over the years, and I know it's from the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's just the people that don't like you.
Well,
then
like,
there's tenant drama,
yeah.
knife fights, cocaine parties, fire.
Yeah.
I haven't had a murder yet, but it's coming.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
it's coming. I have almost 200 tenents.
Yep.
Something there'll be 300 next year or whatever. It's coming.
Okay.
Like Grant Cardone talks about that very clearly. It's just a matter of time. Fires and murders.
Oh my God.
The point is, it's a high stress, high risk job.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it for free, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys want to be paid very handsomely, so I'm fairly modest about it. I don't need much. I just need enough to survive with my kiddos and my little house.
Yeah.
But people want to be paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's when it all comes back to, like, the whole point of this was to figure out if the impact that GST, HST rebate would have.
Mm-hmm.
So not really going to be the thing that we need to solve to help move housing in the right way it needs to go.
Well, it took time to get into the mess. It's going to take time to get out of the mess.
Yeah.
And there's no silver bullet. We all know that, right?
Yep.
So it's going to help for sure.
Okay.
Every little thing helps. Rezoning the land in Halifax, allowing secondary suites.
That's the
all
biggest
helps.
one. Actually, this is an anecdote. I sold my grandmother's house last year.
Yeah.
And it was south in Halifax.
Yeah.
So, like, right by Smew. And we sold it for a million, a little under a million, just because of location. It wasn't a great house. I still know the guy that bought it. And when this Housing Accelerator Fund came out and was announced, and they announced the rezoning of HRM, I didn't know that they announced it. I had no idea. I was just on my way to my friend's birthday party.
Yep.
And I got a call from an agent that tried to buy it when I was selling it. And he called and he said, "Hey, we're the people that offered this on this house last year and we didn't buy it." And I said, yeah, what's going on? He goes, "Well, that guy really wants it now. We're willing to offer you 1.5 cash."
Right. Because now he can build a sixplex there.
Exactly.
Right.
So I had to call the seller.
When was this? How long ago?
When I got the phone call?
Yeah.
Like last Saturday. Like literally like 10 days ago.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've been hearing more and more about it. It's my understanding that the federal government is... I really know very little, so I don't want to sound naive here, but my understanding is that they're reaching out to municipalities directly.
Yeah.
And saying, if you do this, this, and this, we're going to give you some money. So the municipalities with the courage to make sweeping changes like that are going to be the winners. And the municipalities that are all afraid and say, no, we have to let us talk to our townspeople first. They might have an opinion. I'm like, oh, they sure do. They don't want sixplexes everywhere.
Yeah. So when I got the phone call, I remember I was like, hold on, do you want to offer me cash for, like, you offered significantly less than a year. It's not even a year old. Like, we sold that thing in March 2023. Like, you're offering an extra money on top of this. So I had to, then I called the seller who bought it and said, "Hey, like, what do you think?" And he was like, it's not enough money for me. Like, at the exit after taxes is too low for me to financially do this. Mm-hmm. But if they want to come back at this number, I'll do it. Then he was never going to get that number. But I went to my buddy's. I said I was going to my buddy's birthday. My buddy is an architect. He's building hospitals right now. And I said, it was before the party started. Him and I were having a drink. And I go, "You're never going to believe what just happened. Like, I just got this." And he goes, "Oh, that's because of this." And he showed me the new center plan with the R6 zoning for that. It was small apartment building zoning on that lot. And I go, "Oh my God."
Well, you didn't fully understand why yet.
I didn't. I had no idea why I got that phone call.
Right.
I did not, because I had seen it come up, but I didn't read into it.
The guy wasn't transparent. Just tell you what.
No, the guy
it's his own fault.
Just said, I'll give you 1.5 cash for it. And I was like, I don't know what we're doing, but I'll present it. But, like, it just gives you the idea of, like, just off of that announcement for the Halifax or the Housing Accelerator Fund, and for HRM to apply the new zonings to HRM in Halifax Peninsula, to receive that call, 1.5 million to let me buy this place and build a sixplex, just a sixplex. Mm-hmm. A 1.5 is acquisition. That doesn't even mean, like, there's a single family home there. Demolish it, permitting, building it. You know what I mean?
Oh, he couldn't even add it on the side or something? He had to get rid of the home?
Okay,
I mean, that's a bad financial move anyway. Bad
financial move. Yeah. But I just thought it was really weird and profound that to just see off of one announcement that would change and shift the thinking of of an investor so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Of an investor. I don't know if they're a developer or not. I have no idea.
That's the type of guy that goes and gets the brand new iPhone, right?
Yeah.
He's not waiting to see everything,
How everything
dust
pans
settle,
out.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting because it brought up the fact that, hey, like people want to get into this now that there's money into it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start seeing money flowing again. Like I've already pitched it to a few investors. Hey, it's time to start buying crappy homes on the peninsula because you'll be able to flip them.
Right. But I mean, the reality is if they flood the market with homes, which is what they're trying to do, it will drop the values as well.
Yep.
It has to.
Has to.
Yep. And
it's supply and demand.
So they're sitting there with the dollar signs in their eyes, imagining this sixplex renting for $3,000 a unit. Well, that's not what the government wants.
No.
You know, they want quite the opposite of that.
They want 10,000 units on the peninsula, so everyone's charging $1,850.
Right. Exactly.
And that's where you get into it of like, it's an interesting thing that you say in terms of you'll get the big players playing and some people not playing when it comes to the HST, GST.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it to you for a second because this is where my question is now is with this announcement, everything you've done, with this new thing coming down the line or being here, what are you looking to do next for your development?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we have 5 8-plexes.
Okay. So 40 units.
For a permit in Kentville.
Okay.
On the same bigger lot that we put the townhomes on last year.
Across the street?
Down the street. I mean, it's a 900-foot long road or whatever it is, 800 maybe. So
Okay.
there's lots of lots on there.
Yeah.
And we've just chosen 3 of them, or 5. I can't remember how it's set up. Anyway, there's 5 of these buildings going up.
Okay.
And we've done all the hard work and gotten it done. And we've applied for the CMHC MLI Select program, which is quite a process. I mean, that is a big deal. There's engineering involved. It's money.
Yeah.
So you don't do that for 10 units. You don't do that for 5 units. You don't do it for a sixplex. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So these guys that are talking with these sixplexes are probably either they have cash or they're scrubbing money from another country or something. But
or joint venture, doing something.
Whatever it is, no one's making any money.
No.
CMHC is the only way I know how to do it. And so we're mid-application with them for MLI Select, which will get us our 95% construction loan, even with the HST exemption and the MLI Select, and pretty high rents in my opinion, like because we're going with the energy efficiency, of course.
Yeah.
Well, they're high. People feel like they're high.
Yeah.
And people feel the pain, so they are high. We're still just barely cash flowing. We do it because we keep the crew going. We take management fee.
Yeah.
To pay ourselves. And there should be a long-term goal there, but you don't really know what it is, just because we can't predict the future 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
I kind of build based on this old belief someone told me many years ago. They said, if you're the guy who's got the balls to get up in the morning and do something scary when everyone else is saying don't, typically
it pays out.
You're rewarded for it. For having the balls to do it. So I've always stuck with it. I remember during COVID, everybody said, slow down, man, you better stop, this is getting crazy. I can't stop. And that worked really well at that time.
Yeah.
Last year wasn't a great year, but I still maintain employment for 17 or 18 people, and then all the secondary and tertiary markets,
all the subs.
And then the guy who delivers diesel, and I feel like I'm contributing to the community and to the economy, so it matters to me. But I also, like I said, I can't lose money.
Yeah.
I don't have to make a ton.
Yeah.
We'll call last year a little hiatus. Going into the spring with these 40 units, the pro forma says there's going to be some cash flow.
Yeah.
I mean, what's cash flow on 40 units? That's a lot of human beings. Subtract out your management fee. Assume that you are subbing that and you're not worrying about tenants one bit.
Not doing murders.
No, none of that stuff. Just I want nothing to do with it. I've got managers now for all my stuff. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about the knife fights. Okay.
Okay.
The old me loved it.
Oh.
I'm getting old. And the last time there was a knife fight, I drove right in there and met with the guys that were involved right afterwards. The cops were still there, and I was right in the middle of it, chatting with them and yelling at this guy, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh my God, Travis.
Now I'm like, I don't even want to hear about it. So,
okay, so you're subbing out everything.
Subbing out everything. Afterward, like, what do you need for a return? Well, like, from a math perspective, let's just go back to our $10 million example again.
Yeah.
You've got $500,000 a year money sitting in there, right?
Yeah.
And that's costing you $50,000
in serviceable debt.
In serviceable debt a year if it's coming from your line of credit.
Yeah.
So assuming you're servicing the debt with your loan for your mortgage, and you're servicing this other one, then you guys, the investors need to make some money on top of that.
Yes.
Right? So how much? I don't know. If you've got 500, let's say it was your 500,000, you had it in there, you're going to want to make 20%.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So can it or can't it? It's a simple question.
You need.
And the reality is, yes, it very much does, especially if you add in the fact that there is some appreciation.
Yeah.
It's all an estimate.
Yes.
There is some equity pay down in the principal.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's some cash flow. You look at it and the numbers look awesome. You're like, well, only have $500,000 in here. I'm getting like a 75% return.
Yeah.
But 80% of that 75% return, you're not getting for 10 years.
No. And that's the thing, right? Is
Yeah.
being able to access everyone. It's funny because like in Halifax in 2020, the big thing was equity. You're buying a house that will not cash flow because of they introduced rent control and the rents were locked in.
Yeah.
You can't flip the tenants unless you do cash or keys. But if you do cash or keys, you're gonna be paying an exorbitant amount of money to get them out. If they're $1,000 a month rent, they know they're in a bind. You're offering them cash or keys. They're probably gonna pay $4,000, $5,000 minimum to get them out.
And there's
right?
an exploitative nature to that, right? You're
Absolutely.
taking advantage of the fact that this person doesn't have money and you do, and that just rubs me the wrong way, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
I understand sometimes you have to do it. It's a thing.
Yep.
But again, these are humans. They don't want to leave.
But this is what I was getting to is the fact that in 2020 we were talking about equity gains in a sense of like if your HRM was going up $10,000 a month. So when we were buying investment properties for clients in early 2020, we were like, you're like hold this for a year and you're worth 120K more.
Wow.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed just by the way the market was. And 9 times out of 10 we were right.
Mm-hmm.
The one time we were wrong was 2022 heading into 2023.
Yeah.
And a lot of realtors were wrong for that.
Yeah, you got it.
Right? But looking at it now and what the example you're talking about, can you will appreciate as time moves on and as more development happens, but is it enough to guarantee the return that you're talking about? That's where you get into the minutia of the numbers of will I make enough to live off this? Can I make enough off the monthly rents, which are high, but I have high debts. $500,000 at 10% is $50K a year, or is it $50K a month? It's a month, isn't it?
What's that?
$500,000 at 10% interest.
$50,000 a year.
Yeah,
right?
$50,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you have to service that.
$500 a month, give or take.
$500 a month. You got to service that, but then you have to pay yourself a salary. And if you did it with joint ventures, well, we're talking about 20% return.
Right.
Well, how much did they put in? Did you get 5 investors at $20,000 at $100,000 a pop? Right. So that means everyone needs $20,000 for their investment to make them want to get in the pie.
And they're not going to take a deferred one like the principals are, right? The principal guys that are doing the job, us, we might be okay with a deferred return 10 years down the road because it's going to be mountainous. Yeah. Right? Like if I have, typically have zero money in my project, so my returns are infinite. Yeah. But of course, I might get $500,000 from that project 10 years down the road. Yeah. And be honest, I'm getting a little bit tired of that deferred thing. I wouldn't mind making a little bit of money now. But yeah, you have to satisfy your partners. Yeah. And if the money's there, then you do it. And if it's tight, it's one mistake, and you can be sideways fast, and liens can start showing up, and things like that. So. And that's where you get into like the hairy business of developing, where people don't really see the costs associated with building a building. Like I love it when you talk about backyard granny suite. To bring it back there for a second, the amount of people that came up to me when that was announced, I'm going to build a backyard granny suite. I go, look into the cost. Like look into it before you start talking about it. Tiny homes were very popular from like 2019 to like 2021. Right, and 3 of them got built. And okay, because you get back when the housing crisis started, really, like prices really started soaring, I get a call from a friend once a month being like, I've got a wicked idea. What's your idea? I'm going to buy land and put a tiny home on it. I go, okay, cool. How much is land? They go, I don't know. Like there was something that $50K, you can get a mortgage on that. I go, you can't get a mortgage on that. What? You can't get a mortgage on that. That is 50% down payment because it's the land. You get a mortgage for a house. Oh, okay. I go, it's unserviced. What does that mean? No power, no toilet, no water, no pad. To get all those things serviced, 50, 60K. So you need 25K for the purchase. Then you need 50, 60K for this. And then when your pad ready, you get a builder's loan, which is a mortgage. And they're like, oh, I go, yeah. And then you need a tiny house, which is 100K. What? They're what? Yeah, tiny house is 100K. You're living in 200 square feet for 100K. Yeah, you're not paying $300 a square foot for a tiny home. It's custom. It's like building a boat. Tiny little stairs everywhere and special stuff. Yeah. And you're paying $500 a square foot for a tiny home. Right, and no one realizes that when you talk about these nuances. Goes back to mentorship. Always. Right? Where's dad saying, hey, this is how the world actually goes round, kid. Where's he at? Right? He's nowhere to be found. I mean, you brought up a fantastic point. I always tell people the house is cheap. It's the shit pipe going to it that's expensive. Right? See that field across the street right there? Yeah. You go put me a shit pipe in there right now, and I want a light. And I want a shit pipe, and I want a toilet attached to it. What's that going to cost? Well, we have to drill a well. Because toilets use water. Yeah. We have to create a septic field because the waste needs to go somewhere that's environmentally controlled. Yep. We need power because we want our light on. Yep. Now you're at 150K.
Yeah.
The house is the cheap part. Just
Yeah.
put that around the toilet and you have yourself a home, right?
I always, when I didn't understand building till I had to renovate a house.
Right.
And now I don't know if I still understand. I don't know if I understand
Well,
building
you're
at
getting
all,
closer.
but I'm getting closer. And someone exasperated at an event was like, "Why are houses so expensive?" I go, "Well, I'm gonna explain to you how my kitchen reno went." And they're like, "Well, okay." I go, "Here's, first you have the subfloor because particle board, and actually the floor was rotted, so we had to replace the beams.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then I had to lay subfloor. So those were two separate people getting paid off lumber. Then I had to lay subfloor. That business got paid. Then I had to lay flooring. That business got paid. Then I had to order cabinets from IKEA. That business got paid. Then I got to order hardware from Amazon. That business got paid. And then I had to get into appliances. Those businesses got paid. And then I had to get into countertops. That business got paid. Then sinks, plumbing, electrical. Those businesses got paid. Then we're getting into new window. That business got paid. Backsplash, which is tile, grout. Those businesses got paid. Need a bucket. That hardware store got paid. Needed drills, tools. Like when you start thinking about whose hands are in the pockets of how to just make a kitchen function.
You got it.
Then you start realizing why these things are so expensive, because everyone has a hand in the pocket, because it's an industry. So building, buddy, I'm struggling with one house.
Well, this is a perfect segue into standards and expectations, which is what we're really talking about here at the end of the day. The toilet. It's the toilet, right? It's how many toilets do you need? So if people stop building right now, 100%, what would happen next? It's a fantastic thought experiment. Would we be okay?
No.
Well, of course we would. Nova Scotia's not going to evaporate, right? There's going to be problems. And those problems convert directly into the word suffering.
Yeah.
This is about suffering. So in really poor countries, they have a lot of people using one toilet. And what that is a representation of standards of living.
Yes.
And you have insulation in your walls. I can see it.
Yeah, because there's no drywall in my dining room yet.
I can imagine what it would look like when the drywall's there. But, cheap houses. That house there, oh, that's a new house. They have insulation.
The one behind me.
The one behind you does not have any insulation. And so that's that old stock garbage. And they probably have one toilet.
Yeah, they do. I've been in it.
Right. So expectations are the devil. And
Yes.
when there's a quick flip in the standards and people aren't ready to make the change, that's when we interpret that as suffering. Your daughter wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh my God, my brother's in the bathroom. I need to get in there and do my makeup." She's suffering right now. Right?
Yeah.
If we only had a second bathroom. So if you start talking about what happens now, what our expectations are right now,
They will change.
and then turn them backwards. This is what I wrote down. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the standards now. People take them for granted, of course, but let's start with the stupidest, most superficial shit you don't need. Hard surface countertops.
You mean like my beautiful quartz?
I already commented on how nice it was.
Yeah.
Right? Black windows, okay? Black windows. Biggest thing in the world. Big fad right now.
Yeah.
Making sure your door is yellow or red or whatever stupid color they came up with. And yes, I always paint my doors a stupid color, but these are all things you don't need. And then start coming down the thing, right? Okay, we want our houses to be secure. That means we want to have locks and the windows need to be lockable so people can't break in. We want them warm. We need cooling. We need heating and cooling at all times so we're never uncomfortable. And we need them to be quiet.
Yes.
So if you're living next door to someone, you need lots of layers so that you can keep the screams out. You need a really high quality ventilation system to ensure nice fresh air. You need washer and dryer that are electric. You need a stove that's electric. You need a fridge that defrosts itself every night, before bed. It just does it. You don't even know it does it.
Yeah.
Right? I could go on and on and on, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
The biggest one being how many square feet of that beautiful, what I just described, is the way a king should live.
Yeah.
And most people in the world don't live this way. So that's what I'm describing. I'm describing the way king lived somewhere in the past.
Yeah.
How many of those square feet do you need? And how many toilets do you need per person, right?
Yeah.
So the average square footage per person has exploded.
Yeah.
Over the years. And my little thing here says it's gone up 700% since 1900.
Okay.
Right? So in 1900, the average dwelling in Canada had about 800
Square feet.
And 6.5 people living in it and one toilet at best, which would not be attached to a septic system. It would be outside.
It would be a drain pipe to a river.
If you're lucky,
or a field.
just outside
or a ditch.
just in a outhouse.
Yeah.
Right? Just an outhouse.
Yeah.
In 1900, there was no power. No one had power here.
No.
And so talking about suffering,
Yep.
people were suffering. This is horrible. Going out into the cold and sitting on a frozen thing is cold. It's horrible. So is it when my baby dies of cholera.
Yeah.
So these are suffer. And as human beings are fantastic at eliminating suffering. So they just push it away.
Yeah.
They're intelligent. How can I push it away? How about instead of me sewing these garments in this factory, I find a way to make that guy over there do it, or better yet, his children in that country.
Oh my God.
Right? This is where we're
Yeah.
going here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go all the way.
Yeah. You go all the way. Go all in.
This is what it is. And so we will push it away at all costs. And our standards creep up slowly without anybody noticing. They don't notice the harm being done because they can't see it.
Yep.
But more importantly, they don't notice that they're out of balance.
Yes.
We're out of balance with nature. We're out of balance with something, and she's screaming something awful. And that's where this current suffering is coming from, because we're being tweaked back.
Yeah.
And the biggest number is just number of people in a house. Right?
Yes.
6.5 people in 1900. It's 2 now. A little bit higher than 2, I think.
If you're even including a family, you're looking at 3 or 4, somewhere in there.
Well, I'm talking average.
Okay.
So the average dwelling in Canada has 2 people in it. I think it's 2.4 maybe, but it's not 4 and it's not 6.
Okay.
So, and then again, so that's that square footage per, and the average unit size now is probably 1,600, not 8.
Yeah.
So we've doubled the square footage, and then we have like quadrupled the standards in that square footage.
Yes.
Like I said, safe, quiet, warm, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I know where it can go. I don't want it to go there, because I don't want my children or your children or any children to have to go back to 1900. Like my dad tells stories. These anecdotes are fantastic to put you in your spot. But like in 1960, which is not that long ago, starting a car in Nova Scotia in the cold often involved a shovel full of coal on fire, and you would sit out there and stick it under the engine and try to warm this engine up enough to start, because the old carburetors or whatever, I don't really understand it, but it sounds horrible. He's out there, he's got 6 kids screaming, they're poor, and and he's sitting there with this shovel full of coal on fire under the engine to get his kids to school, or get to work. Probably the kids walk to school.
Yeah.
He's going to his job. He's not getting paid a lot, and he's suffering.
Yeah.
He's suffering big time. Meanwhile, here in Nova Scotia, beer just went up, or gas just went up, and all of a sudden I'm getting my fucking trailer broken into every 3 weeks, and everyone's a thief.
Yeah.
Or it didn't take much.
Yeah.
Just the slightest poke, and all of a sudden just our decorum has fallen to the wayside.
Well, I did notice that when out here in the valley, every when interest rates are going up, all the gas stations changed to you had to pay first.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
And when we were curious, because I travel to Halifax a lot for work, so I always stop at Glue Cap, or I used to. And I said, why is it now pay them up? Oh, because my people are just filling their gas and driving off.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. That's all it takes. It's a fragile network.
They're stealing. Oh, okay. And then I found the one gas station that does they do full service, and now I just go to them because I'm lazy. I don't want to get out of my car.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, we're in touchy territory. We have to be careful here, because people can get pretty upset when you start talking like this. Like, well, in 1950, was it harder than it is now? And did people behave themselves better in 1950? Were people stealing gas in 1950? I'm not sure. Anecdotally, I think they were actually very honest. And I mean, my grandparents had a big farm, and out front was the farm table with all the produce, and you put money in a can, and it wasn't until 2016 that someone finally ran off with the can.
Yeah.
After 60-something years of farming there. And so I like to believe that there was a culture or a habit of a way of doing things back then.
Yeah.
That's been lost moving forward. We are going back to some degree.
So
I don't know how far.
This is where I want to bring it up to your sheet here. By what you're saying, you're predicting that we are going to be changing future developments. You're saying right now the average is 1,600 square feet. That's probably going to be clawed back.
It's hard to say. We have a real variety of apartment and housing styles now. Obviously, every house is not 1,600 square feet. There's lots of 400 square foot apartments. I build them all the time.
You're sitting in a 1,200 square foot house.
Right. And like the houses I built last year were actually 1,800 square feet. All of them. They're very big, and they are full of families. Interestingly, when I first started, our pro forma was set for $2,200 a month, and we were feeling nervous about that.
Yeah. We
start renting them, and we're up to $2,500. And again, I'm feeling a little bit guilty, but I also know the numbers, and I'm like, if I can't get $2,500, this ship is stopping. Right? And at first I get this couple, he works at the hospital, she was a nurse, whatever, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Then 3 houses down, all of a sudden the It's two couples moving in. Two couples. So one's going to take the upstairs, one's going to take the downstairs, and okay, they're making it work. I really appreciate that. They're dealing with it, and the rents are also going up. By the time we ended, we had a 3-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms with 3 couples. They're sharing rooms each. They're from I don't know, Vietnam or somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic, and they're respectful and quiet, and there's no fighting going. Cops haven't been to their house once. Right? So they're awesome. And they're in there, and if you think about if you run the numbers are great. They walk to work and they work crappy jobs. I get it.
Yeah.
And let's say you're making a minimum wage, $15 an hour working at Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a long-term sustainable thing.
No.
But it is something, and they're doing it. So there's 6 people living in this house, and they're walking to work, and they're making $15 each.
Yeah.
Let's assuming they're working
40 hours a week.
40 hours. I think that's $30,000 times
4,
6.
6.
All of a sudden, they're loaded, as long as they can get along.
Yeah. Well, as long as they can get along.
As long as they can get along. But the economy demands they do.
Yeah.
So their goals and desires are bigger than their disdain for their friend living 2 doors down. Like when I say doors, I mean down the hallway.
Yeah.
In the same house.
Yeah.
But that's when I say we're going back. That's another way we have to go back. Families are going to shrink.
Yep.
People are going to be tighter knit.
Yep.
Maybe your bro is going to be living with you, or your cousin, or it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Rents have to keep going up. I can't build if they don't.
Right.
But you can't just go and go and go and go and go. Right?
There has to be something. There has to be give and take.
Something breaks. And one of these things is what's going to break.
Okay.
And it may not be all bad. It may be community building.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, there's always 2 sides to the coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of trying to figure out, if you can't build today and keep rents at what they were last year. Right?
No, of course not.
And you can't, right. So if you take on this HST, GST to bring it full circle, if you take on one of these new developments with your 40 unit and you get that GST, HST waived, then the rents, will they be setting a new market value for rents, or will they be at the highest price point currently available in the market?
Right. Well, we have to set our rents at the market rate.
Right.
The like I say, the if you take this actual savings from that reduced debt payment and just dribbles through to the bottom, it's not going to be huge savings anyway.
Yeah.
It might be $20 a month per tenant.
Yeah.
So we're going to do what we have to do
to get
again. You have to make something. I'd say without that HST, we may not have built.
Yeah.
You certainly need everything you can get.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So many things come with red tape, and so many things come with strings.
Yeah.
The red tape we can deal with. Strings I don't love. Offering an affordability component to your development for 10 years or 15 years, like the Nova Scotia Housing affordability programs, and I don't know much about them, but I know that's the idea.
Yeah.
Is that you're now committed for so much time. And the thing about the HST is it doesn't have any strings.
Yeah.
Well, you can't rent it for a short-term rental. That's the only string that I
know.
No
Airbnb. Yeah.
No short-term rentals. That's fine. I don't do short-term rentals. I don't want to do that ridiculous stuff. Sounds horrific. Even more knife fights.
Yeah. Okay. So but to sum this whole thing up.
Yeah.
Right. GST, HST being removed. Good thing or bad thing for you as a developer?
Good thing for sure.
Good thing
Absolutely.
for sure. You think it's going to help more housing get built?
I think it's going to be enough to ensure some housing gets built, because I think where we were going, it was going to
slow down.
Stop.
Okay.
Yeah, it never stops, but it was going to slow.
Okay.
Until, like, if there's some guy who's going to pay $5,000 a month for a rental, then there'll be someone to build it for him.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some, but I worry there won't be enough
for
capacity for the masses.
Yeah, the middle class.
The everybody. Well, especially the low class.
Yeah.
They matter more to me than anybody, because that's where I come from, and it matters that they have housing.
Yeah.
But they may have an easier time adapting to what we just talked about
than
the upper class.
The upper classes.
Right? Yeah,
right.
You're sharing space, you're sharing toilets, and so they're used to that.
Yeah.
And might be okay. Like, again, with a lot of my rentals, there are a lot of people packed in there, and I actually don't mind. You want to bring grandma in? That's great. Bring them in. I don't raise the rent. I just say keep the place looking good. And
just take care of the unit.
Take care of the unit.
Don't come back. Don't make me come back for murder.
Don't make me come back for murder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, Travis, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right.
If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me at 902-220-7357 or jason@infinityrealestategroup.ca. And if you'd like to get in touch with Travis, you can reach him at 902-300-8948. Thanks again. Bye.